Animal Collective are my special guests right now, and I've got, we'll call them by their actual names. We've got David and Brian with me right now. Thank you for coming in. Appreciate your time.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
The notion of chaos, there seems to be an element with your career or your, the history of the band and also the way things have done, that chaos seems to be a manageable sort of force in your output. Would that be fair to say?
I think there is some pluses to chaos, or some artistically pleasing things to guess that I think that Brian and I, you're lucky to have us here and ask that question.
Yeah, not the other two.
Yeah,
unlike your equipment, of course.
Got really into or learned, as we started being friends, actually, like at a really young age, through horror movies and some darker music, some darker like contemporary classical music, like Christoph Penderecki or I don't know, stuff like that.
Yeah, because the horror theme, the horror musical sort of genre crops up in a number of chats about what you do. Are there any particular composers that you've sort of gravitated to, or is that not the issue?
Composer...
Penderecki was a big one from the Shining soundtrack, and Ligeti, and then through that we also learned about electronic music. Like, that was the first time I think we had heard of Wendy Carlos, and
right.
And then that led us to Stockhausen and
and
Xenakis and people like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
The way you've been described over the years is many and varied, isn't it?
Well, I think we were really inspired at that time in New York by bands like Black Dice or Lightning Bolt, who brought this new energy to like punk music or something like that. It was like a weird combination of a lot of things. Rock music. I mean, we all liked classic rock music, but we all liked punk music. We all liked electronic music.
So
hip hop was pretty popular in New York at the time too, like Hot 97, the radio station.
Hot 97. So was it an instinctive thing? Were there any boundaries to say, look, we're not going there, or would you just follow your instincts and just see where they?
We didn't really want to sound like anybody else. I mean, we wanted to keep our own personalities intact and our taste in music. So it was basically like, well, how can we add our own kind of energy to what's going on and just bring something that we've always wanted to do since we were younger, really.
Yeah. That was the fun thing about New York at the time, was you had all these bands. We would share practice spaces together, and we would be lumped in like to a scene, like us and Black Dice and this other gang dance.
Was that collaborative or competitive?
Neither, really. It was more like inspiring, and it wasn't like, oh, they're doing this sound, and so like I think the way Dave said it is good. It was what every band was doing was so unique and personal to them, and you'd look at it and say, like, I haven't seen anybody make that specific sound, and it seems really specific to their personalities. And we just wanted to find that for ourselves, and I'm sure there are some sounds that maybe, migrated from one band to another, but on a pretty small scale.
And it sounds so specific that if your equipment doesn't arrive in the country, you just can't pick it up. You cannot go to the local hire shop and then go, right, we're ready to go.
Yeah, that's always been.
So there
was
supposed to be a show tonight, wasn't there? And I think you've lost the chance for New Zealand on this particular tour.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's a shame, isn't it? But tomorrow night, the we'll talk about it in a minute. A little bit about Baltimore when you're much younger. Never having been there, I've been to various other cities in the States, but through various ways, television and music, etc., and film, we get ideas, from John Waters to The Wire, Tell us a little bit about your actual area that you grew up in.
Well, we grew up kind of in the suburbs, or less of a downtown city environment. Although we grew up 15 minutes away from Baltimore's really small, so we'd go down to shows and stuff like that when we were in high school. I think it's what people see of Baltimore now is a little bit different from what it was like when we were growing up, and we certainly never grew up around the Wire kind of areas.
Maybe a few times we went to shows in those neighborhoods.
Yes.
So for us, it was just like kind of, for most of the time, pretty farm-like landscapes or woods or, walking around and that kind of thing.
Okay.
Yeah, nature was a big influence.
Yeah.
For sure.
Okay. The visual aspect of your performance, and also your interest in audio visuals as well, is fairly well documented. But your stage performances have changed, haven't they? I mean, there was more performance or camouflage or whatever in previous years.
Yeah, I think going back to when we started off playing live, I think we kind of wanted to just submerge ourselves in the sonic environment as much as we could, i.e. not kind of be visible so much or recognizable as David Portner or Brian Waite. So we started wearing masks and stuff a lot like that, just to...
And that can take over. It has with some bands, hasn't it?
Yeah. Then we stopped for a while just because we thought we didn't want it to become too much of like our thing, our gimmick, like the band that wears masks and stuff like that. But as we've gotten larger and been playing for larger audiences, and been playing with a lot more equipment around us, we don't on stage we don't do a lot of like interesting stuff, I guess. So
we know we're not exciting to watch.
yeah, so we just
no choreographed moves or
no, nothing like that. Try to take it back to
We have such a big we have a big setup now, like sculptures and large projections, and those are, I mean, this is kind of another form of a mask. It's giving people something else to look at other than what we think are just kind of four plain human beings.
That must be a relief, I suppose, to some degree.
Noah definitely liked it. During the Merriweather years, we'd have these bright LEDs behind us, and we would see videos that the audience would make, and we'd be like, it's kind of cool. You can't, like, we're just backlit. You can't see our faces, and we're always looking for ways to hide.
Where do the visuals? Where do you source the visuals? Who puts those together?
Most of the stuff lately, my sister Abby has been putting together for us, and we got some other people to help us kind of actually construct and logistically figure out how to do like the most recent stage setup that we have.
It's kind of based on Krull, the movie Krull.
Oh yeah. Alex Proyas.
It's like Krull in color.
Okay.
Not as industrial.
Okay. Now we did mention your hometown of Baltimore, but now you're scattered across the world from Portugal to East Coast, West Coast, or whatever. So coming together is not as easy, or you just pick and choose when it's sort of. I mean, it must be a logistical nightmare at times to try and fit schedules in. You're getting, as you get older, families, connections, hometowns, etc.
It takes work.
It's something we've been doing it maybe since like 2005. So over the years, it's just something we've become used to, kind of.
Yeah. Okay. And from Centipede Hertz backwards, there I think there was quite a fairly time off period, wasn't there?
Yeah, I think from playing live for sure, we took about like a year off from playing live, or a year and a half. But we did this DVD project called Oddsack, which we did a theater tour of in the States, and we did a sound installation at the Guggenheim. So we kept ourselves somewhat busy, and Dave and Noah both did solo records. So I guess there was like 3 years in between the release, but I felt like for the most part we were working a lot of the time, maybe just not publicly.
And these audio visual etc projects, will there be more of those? Will that be something that will take up more of your time?
It's hard to say. We don't really have anything definitive planned for, we'll probably continue touring.
I did say chaos, but randomness seems to be a factor as well.
It's not as random as
it sounds.
I mean, it sounds.
We'll see when we're done touring this record. It's like, what do we feel like doing next? And if, it partly will depend on the opportunities we're given. Like both those projects were things that came to us from somewhere else.
With certain things like that, it is just good to take immediate, immediate offers like that, and that just like triggers our creativity in a way to just be able to do off the cuff stuff like that. Like, you have to do something next month at the Guggenheim. Can you do it? We'll be like, all right, we got a month to do it.
We have no ideas, but we'll show up with something.
Okay. What do you use? What's the lineup of instrumentation tonight, or tomorrow night, I should say?
A bunch of synthesizers, keyboards, drum set. That's a little particular for our setup
complex
right now. Well, it's just got some added,
It's stripped away. There's no snare. There's bongos in place of snares, and like a shaker thing instead of a hi-hat.
Yes.
Our synthesizers, we use a lot of Moog synthesizers that are, our presets are pretty specific.
Yeah.
Like we custom make our presets, so.
Yes.
Josh has a million pedals for his guitar.
It's a lot of pedals.
I want to thank you both very much, David and Brian, for coming in.
Yeah, thanks
for
for having
your
us.
time. We appreciate it.